Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chelsea Echo, the fastest growing Chelsea podcast on the planet. It is myself, Louis Beneventi.
Myself, Daniel Childs.
Yeah, and we're here to talk about Chelsea's trip to Aston Villa and how we're really depressed with Chelsea Football Club. But you couldn't tell because if you don't smile, you will cry. Yay! Oh my God. It's shite at the minute, Dan, isn't it? Just everything. The world's falling apart. There's a protest which doesn't seem that it's going to work. Chelsea are rubbish, which means I've had to restart my football club. That's fun. And that's back in the works. That's going again. But it is a pretty interesting time to be a Chelsea fan. And myself and Dan are going to be giving you everything you need to know about the fixture, everything that's going on in the world, our opinions, and everything we are going to be talking about as well. So, Daniele, where do you want to start? Should we start with this? We don't even need to talk about Brian because it's just a copy and paste of the previous game. Not even worth talking about. We were just seething with that anyway. And obviously, if you listen to Final Score with the score, he went through all of that there as well. But Dan, where do we start? Should we start with this protest and what's going on with that?
Well, because by the time we're next doing this, it would have happened. So I think we've got to address it in some kind of capacity, and then we'll quickly move on, I'm sure, to Villa. The joys of Villa Park.
I mean, Villa Park. I mean, we have a nice memory from the FA Cup last season, but we will talk.
I got a nice memory because remember Villa Park was like one of those bogey grounds for us for years, and me and Papa Childs did an away day there during the 14-15 season when Ivanovic. You remember Ivanovic scored? He kind of scuffed a left-footed volley into the corner. We were in the lower tier, and then post game, me and my dad literally walked from Villa Park to the ball ring. If people know Birmingham,
you see, you went to the ball ring, did you? You went right down there.
Yeah, and so that was a pretty decent weekend. So actually, to be fair, my own personal experience of going to Villa Park was pretty good, and also that was hilariously a day when we all kind of sat there and went, Juan Cuadrado, well, he looks quite decent. He could be quite a good signing for Chelsea.
Juan Cuadrado. Oh my God. I still remember people asking the question of, why are you so fast? He's like, I just imagined I'm being chased by a witch. It's like, what's that even mean? Like, that is just weird.
Or as Louis version, I just imagined I was a lion being chased by a seagull.
A seagull dressed in recycled clothes. Yeah, it's vintage, actually. Fuck off, mate. Fuck off. Anyway, let's talk about the protest. Because you said we do this pod. It's obviously every Friday. So by the time that it rolls around to the next game, which is Southampton, it is going to be. He's going to have been and gone. And obviously, in the week since the Brighton game, it has sort of obviously been very heavy in the news cycle. Obviously, a lot of Chelsea journalists, content creators, people are talking about it. And I think a big struggle has been a clear message. But obviously, we'll touch more on that later. But for those that don't know, if you've been living under a rock, a group of Chelsea fans have actually come forward and they are going to be doing a protest at the Bovril Gate before the game against Southampton on Tuesday night, which is going to be an interesting occasion. Because it's a bit of an odd time. But, everyone's got the right to protest. This doesn't mean no way, going after people's right to protest. And I think people are very upset. But, Dan, it is for differentiating reasons, isn't it?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's fair to our viewers and listeners that we admit that I think both of us were kind of wrapping our heads around and thinking about how we would talk about this, right? Because the consistent theme of this podcast is opposition and criticism of the ownership. So our natural instinct is, well, a protest sure is a good thing. And fans do have the right to protest. Fans should have the right to voice their displeasure about things. But I sort of changed my mind. I think Monday or Tuesday, I put out a tweet that was kind of like, well, to expect a protest to be clear cut, precise, and very PR friendly and coherent all the time is kind of difficult. I still do believe that. Like, if you look at any protest movement, there are always going, especially mass protest movement, like mass protest movement, there are always going to be fragmented parts of it. You can see that across the world and across history. However, I think as I listen to more people and I listen to concerns, I started to agree that there's a couple of variables here that I think have made people skeptical, at the very least, around this protest. I think some of it has to do with divisions that stretch back quite a long way, especially online in the Chelsea fan base. I don't think that's unfair to bring up here.
Mm-hmm.
The timing of it too, logistically, is just awful. I've spoken to people outside of Chelsea who have covered other protests and say 6 p.m. on a Tuesday night for a night game is just bad. It's just bad optics. It's bad organizing. It feels quite rushed. You know, you got to factor in that not everyone who goes to Stamford Bridge locally is around Stamford Bridge, and some of those people will finish work at about 5, and some of their journeys take literally over an hour to get down to the bridge.
Yeah.
So it feels a bit rushed. It's not a great time. This is not a 3 p.m. game where maybe you're doing a protest at 12 or 1 o'clock, where there could have been much more ability for more people to be able to get to that protest. So there's that as well. And yeah, just I don't think the organizers behind it, whilst I don't deny it, I think there are people with legitimate concerns, legitimate Chelsea fans who I'm not doubting their credentials, of people who've followed the club for a long time and clearly want the best for the club. But unfortunately, either by their blessing or not, or unfairly or not, there have been other individuals who've been tagged to this protest that I think have brought it down. So without going on more of a tangent, I do think that I'm at the position now where, despite being very critical of the ownership, it's a wait and see approach with this. And I think that without the backing, say, of the supporters' trust, which I think would have given it a lot more credibility and support, and other people too, I think I'm probably in a majority of people who, no matter what they think of the club currently, are not fully on board with the protest as it's been organised.
No, I agree, and that is a big issue. I think that what we're looking at is, I think everyone's heart is in the right place with what they're wanting to do here. But you mentioned, obviously, you look at history and you look at mass scale protests and how there is a fragmented message, right? There is, but there also is a clear message, a clear headline, right? This is what we want, right? But from what I'm understanding, from what I've seen, from the reaction that I've gauged from people that go to the games, compared to obviously other people that I've seen online who've been a bit more vocal about it, I don't know how many people are actually going to be there. I mean, like I said, it's a wait and see approach. And again, it's not me shutting it down. This is not me saying this is a stupid idea. People are upset. And as he said, you know, we've been very vocal in terms of how we feel that the club could be run in a better way. But the lack of a clear headline and the lack of a clear message, I think, is doing more harm than good. And of course, I think, as a clip that went viral, obviously, Simon Jordan and Jim White had Stevie Chelsea come on and talk about the protest. And I mean, look, I'm not, outside of watching it, I've not given it any airtime, purely because I think what Simon Jordan said, I think Simon Jordan is a bully. I think he's someone who will just shout down at anybody he thinks he's better than. It's how he comes across, if I'm honest. And a man lecturing fans on how they should feel about a football club after driving Crystal Palace into the ground really doesn't have a leg to stand on. That's why he's a journalist and no longer a football club owner. Sorry. And calling Chelsea fans ingrates and saying they're stupid and all this sort of stuff because they want to protest. And rather than, I think, look, Stevie, he seems like a lovely guy, but he didn't really give much. I don't think he didn't give it substance. He didn't. Yeah, he didn't paint it in the best light because he didn't. And it's not his fault, but it was a great example of there being a real lack of a clear message coming from the organisers of the protest, as to somebody then going out there to simply go and say, "This is how we feel about it." So I think look, they've already said there's going to be more protests at Chelsea as we, it will grow. This is only the first one, and I've no doubt about that. And I'm sure they'll learn a lot from this. I mean, as Dan said, it's for us. It's a look and see situation. I'm going to be there purely as a journalist, should I say, because I think it's fair that we actually try and gauge and understand how Chelsea fans are feeling properly without the worry of headlines being twisted, which is something which me and Dan have actually discussed a lot this week leading up to this pod, and how we'd like to cover it and how we'd like to approach it, purely because we want to try and give as balanced view as we possibly can and actually have the right voices heard, rather than what we have seen already with TalkSport this week, which is getting Stevie on and just using the opportunity just to put him on blast rather than actually listen and understand. We want to be there to sort of allow people to that, so we can then turn around to these outlets and go, well, here you go, we've done the work for you. This is what you need to listen to. This is the package.
Yeah, I do think, and this is kind of a more general point than just this specific protest. I do think it's important that Chelsea fans have an appreciation. But I guess it's difficult, right? Because if you're not in the weeds like we are, because we do this, right, and if you've known and you've looked at media for a very long period of time, I mean, I still don't think it takes a rocket scientist to grasp that Chelsea are not the most popular club, and by extension, Chelsea fans are not always given the greatest limelight in the mainstream media. And that's not me going down a route of everyone who disagrees with me is paid off. That's not my point at all. So please don't misconstrue that. That's not my argument.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I forget what color envelope it is, but anyway, on this specific point, there is also a concern, right, that the Message Daily, I think, has made a great points about this, that like, and you have as well, and others have, and others have, in DMs and conversations I've had. Well. Yeah, exactly right. The worst thing that could happen is that you get a mainstream media, and I know that maybe is a bit of a lazy term, but someone who isn't maybe fully within the Chelsea bubble and doesn't understand the nuances within why fans are protesting, and they speak to one fan and their instant response is the vivid seats thing, which we have criticized, right? And I'm not sitting here and telling people that they should not be upset, they should not be critical of Todd Boehly. But the problem that will happen, and this is a perception thing, this is just unfortunately reality, whether we like it or not, this is the reality. Todd Boehly, in some sections of media, and I think mainstream media, is still construed as the guy behind Chelsea and the guy making all the decisions, which, as we know as Chelsea fans, is not an accurate reflection. That doesn't mean that Todd Boehly holds no accountability for what's going on at Chelsea, but you could see how easily the message gets lost, where it's like Chelsea fans protest Todd Boehly, and Todd Boehly becomes again the face of it, and Benedict Barley, Paul Winstanley, and Lawrence Stewart completely get off scot-free. So there's that too. There's a media side of it, and listen, I agree with you that in the case of that TalkSport interview, it was cringy. It was. I feel sorry for. Is it Stevie who went on there? Like I feel sorry for the bloke, right? Because not everyone can articulate it right, and not everyone can go on there in a short period of time. You also got to factor in that, like, you've got a situation there where you have Simon Jordan, who's being very confrontational to his supporter, and he has a consistent kind of theme that even against like Man United fans, right?
He's a bully. He's a massive bully.
Like, and then you've got Jim White in there who's doing the whole, how are you, throws out the very lazy question, but if you're flustered and you don't feel very confident already, which I could kind of tell in his voice of the specific charge he aimed at him, well, how are you a better businessman than Benedict Barley and Todd Boehly? And I can understand how someone in that situation would be flustered by that, right? And it's a very easy way to try and expose someone. But I think the messaging simply has to be better when the person you're counter arguing with, Simon Jordan here, basically is basically telling fans to shut up, basically. Yeah. That's kind of the whole route. And the counter argument cannot be going in these kind of pathways of like trafficking and stuff. And
yeah,
I just think
I completely forgot he'd said human trafficking.
Yeah, and I was like, and I feel sorry for him, because there's almost a part of me that goes like, I kind of understand how someone could, in our modern age, especially on very online space, come to that, right, where they believe in these things, right? They get frustrated and they go onto a national platform, and unfortunately perception is everything. And as me and you know, and we've known since we were like 15, 16, there are platforms online that thrive and make money off of making fans look silly. And that's kind of their whole purpose. And they look down on supporters. So yeah, it's a massive misstep. My concern is that misstep does wider Clear Lake criticism damage. But I guess we'll see, right? Until we see this protest, until we see what comes of it, it's unfair to call it a complete failure until you've actually seen it. Like, at least you've got to wait and see how it plays out. And I think it's right that actual Chelsea fans, actual people with good faith and actually deeply care about Chelsea and actually want to represent the truth behind Chelsea supporters and put it out in media form will actually be at that protest rather than just, hey, let's film some silly Chelsea fans and put out for a viral clip, which I know there will be some people intentionally there to do. And I think it's important. We saw this in the sanctions period. I've seen it for most of my life, right? I think it's important. That's why, in many ways, that's why I have a channel about Chelsea, because I felt that there was not enough Chelsea voices in media to kind of represent our side of things, right? So I think that's an important side of it too. So I'm not, if you're listening to this and you actively want to protest, I fully support your right to go down and protest. Even if I don't agree with the way it's been organized or I don't think it's a clear enough message, by no means am I demeaning you or I'm gonna talk crap and say, oh, you're stupid for going down and protesting. That's your right. That's your right. And listen, I hope that it is a success, and I hope it what it does is it illuminates light onto the people who were accountable, which is Clear Lake at Chelsea, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And I think, but then so this is also where I think the problem lies. You and I have gone, well, this is about Clear Lake. Other people have gone, well, this is about the sporting directors. Other people have gone, well, no, this is about Todd Bowley, basically lying, quote unquote, and bringing these guys in. But no, so it's about the entirety of BlueCO. Okay, well, therein lies the issue. There is no clear message, and I think you the biggest point you made was about the segregation in the Chelsea community. Ever since Sarri, I have never seen, other than the Super League, this club be unified on anything on social media ever.
Other than
And it's
night
really
one
sad.
Champions League, which was obvious. The unique thing about the Super League, right, was I think it was a combination of people bringing this up now, and I think it's fair, right? Like, there was lockdown tiredness, right? People there was a sense of finally getting to unify with people in a public place, which hadn't been the case for a year or so, over a year. And in a combination of that, and also that it was a bipartisan issue. It was an issue that affected more than just Chelsea fans. So that kind of infighting that maybe is prevalent for an issue like this is less prevalent because it affects everything, right? It was affecting the whole fabric of the game. It wasn't just one set of fans. You had Liverpool fans, Man United fans, Man City fans, Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans, Spurs fans across the country. You know, Chelsea fans, that sign that will be infamous in history forever. You know, we want to have our a cold nights in Stoke, you know, because it reflected something bigger than just a single club. The unfortunate thing is this is a single club, but I think the way I'd want people to reflect, or kind of the way I've been reflecting on it, is protesting has become more prevalent in the Premier League, especially with London-based clubs, and just generally in recent weeks. We've seen it, right? Tottenham and Man United fans angry at their owners, West Ham fans angry at their owners, Chelsea fans or sections of Chelsea fans angry at their owners. It's a consistent theme, and even Matt Law's bringing this up. Even Villa in a good season right now, where they're in the Champions League. Even their fans have been angry at the ticket pricing of Champions League games. There is a sense globally, and I think especially in English football, that the game's being taken away from supporters. Can that be harnessed in something more powerful? I think it's slightly difficult compared to the Super League, because there isn't that kind of thing that brings everyone together at the same time. You know,
but then I think I get what you're saying, right? And this might just be me being quite a nice person. I don't know, but I just feel that there is a opportunity here for people to actually. I think the other thing is I've not seen any conversation. I've seen people going for each other. So, for example, when I I put out a tweet saying, "Can someone explain to me what the clear message is? I want to know what fans are protesting about." I know there's lots of different things, but what is the main issue that they're wanting to push? Because you talked about Spurs, you talked about Aston Villa, you talked about West Ham. All of them had clear messages. Spurs, Enoch out, Aston Villa, West Ham, ticket prices. Those were things where it was like, this is the headline. There are other things we want to talk about, that this is the important thing. And with this, I don't think there is one. It's sort of lots of different things, but they're all equally important, rather than going, well, this is the main bit we want. This is what we want to see in the future. Almost like a manifesto, as it were. There isn't one. And, you know, I do feel that there's a real opportunity to go and do something about that. But for example, when I said, "Can someone tell me the clear message?" I was messaging, "Oh, you're belittling the protest. You're taking the piss out of it." And I said, "No, I'm not. I just want to know what the main message is. I want to know what the conversation is. I want to know where we're going." "Well, it's this, and this. It's that simple. I've just explained it to you." It's like, well, no, like, hang on. You haven't explained it to me. You've just reinforced the point of, there's 4 different things you've mentioned there. What's the main one? What's the main target here? What do you want more people to get behind so that we can actually make an impact? Because granted, I understand it was bipartisan, the Super League, but it was unifying. There's a unification around the fact that Chelsea fans are not happy with the ownership and their model. And I've just contradicted my own point there, because I've said, we need one message. I've just given you 2 things that Chelsea fans are unhappy about. So if we
yeah, could I just say quickly, because I know we're gonna have to move on to the Villa game soon, but I also do think it's tough for some fans, and I understand why, because of this toxic. I think toxic is the right word. Division that's been there for a long period of time. I think it's difficult for some people to stand alongside people who have at times kind of stood against everything they believe the club is. I think it's very difficult for people to see themselves as part of one message when, I know, months, years ago, there was a lot more of a distance between these people's opinions. And I also think we've got to hold our hands up and say here, I don't think either of us are guilty of it right now, but like, I think as someone, I'm always reflective of fan channels and fan media, and how I think there is because I know it anecdotally, and people, it's almost like people go to me. It's almost like it's not a backhanded compliment, but it's like you know, oh yeah, they'll say something bad about like fan media, and they'll say, "Oh, but you're one of the good ones," basically. And it's like, but I understand where that comes from, because I think people fear that it's going to turn into something farcical, and they don't want to be associated with that, because they feel it will take back any legitimate protest. So there's that side of it too. Listen, there could be a whole documentary on that, right? And I don't want to waste this pod doing that. So
that'll be another pod, a whole documentary.
I mean, as everything about Chelsea currently, it is very messy, and there's a lot of conflict, and there's a lot of contradictions at times, and there's a lot of nuance within the situation. So how logically, if we've been here, you know, talking about, in some ways, having a messy protest kind of reflects the club, doesn't it? It reflects the way the club's been run for several years now. So yeah, I've been trying to listen to as much as I can of people, and I've reached that conclusion. And I think anecdotally, I've not seen support of it. I've not seen people going, "No matter what, I'm going down for that protest." And maybe like us, maybe people are just waiting and seeing to see what could come of it. You know, you may criticize people, and Louis and others, people's kind of hesitancy. I don't think there is illegitimate reason, based on everything we've discussed so far, for why people come to that conclusion. And that doesn't mean that we're delegitimizing your ability to protest.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if you're there, best of luck to you. And I hope that all the questions that we've raised here, I hope they get answered at that protest, because that would mean that it has been a success, because you'd have people who can understand it and potentially get behind the next one. It's all about having that consistency. But I think unification is important, and in an age where people are sort of just trying to go for each other and no one really likes nuance. Nobody, I mean, our generation especially, me and Dan have discussed this on multiple occasions, and like he said, we've been in this isn't fan media anymore really, but we've been in the fan media game for 10 years now, so we've seen it grow from a couple of people to what it is with the overlap and Gary Neville and everything. We've seen that growth, so we know what we're looking for, and we know what we can do to help and what we can say. And like for us, it's very much a case of at that protest, if you do want to talk to us, we are simply giving you the opportunity to do so. We're not going to put forward our opinion. I think that's we've done that a lot this season. I think we've been very, very clear in terms of where we stand and our thought process. But with all of that being said, we want you guys to be able to feel comfortable to come and talk to us. And if you don't want to come talk to us, that's absolutely fine as well. But we should move on to Aston Villa. Obviously, Villa Park, late kickoff. Late kickoff is a late kickoff. Dan, I'll be very honest with you, mate.
5:30.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll be very honest. Me and Dan were on the phone on Tuesday, and I was still so annoyed at Brighton. I forgot we were playing this weekend. That's the point it hit. It was not a good feeling.
Well, it sums up though the first 26 minutes of this podcast. We've been talking about something that's happening on Tuesday at another game. So,
yeah, well, there you go. I mean, and also, yeah, we got Copenhagen in the Conference League. Moving on, Aston Villa. Chelsea heading to Villa Park. As you said earlier, you've had an experience there. It's a happy experience. I actually never got to go to Villa Park because that was the ticket I got just before they announced lockdown. I had it in my hand, like I'm going to go to Villa Park. I'm going to go watch Chelsea play, and I'm yet to experience a night at Villa Park. So it's on my to-do list. I'm not going this weekend. I'm a busy boy. I've got a lot of work to be doing, so I will unfortunately be unable to attend. But Dan, honestly, how are you feeling about this game?
Not optimistic. I don't think you can be based on recent form. I don't think anyone can seriously sit here and go, I really think Chelsea are going to turn up and put a great performance, because none of the performances since Brentford, even Brentford itself, like the last brilliant Chelsea performance was probably the first game against Villa in early December, right? The last complete performance. That's how far back it goes. So there's nothing rationally, objectively, based on our performance record for some time now, that should give you any hope that we're going to go to a team that put up, I think, quite a good fight against Liverpool in midweek. And I think just from a character point of view, they went down quite early to a really bad mistake. And, I was thinking about the current Chelsea team, and I don't think it's just being cynical and negative for no reason. Like, you put this current Chelsea team in that situation against the best team in the league. Do you think they can come back and be 2-1 up before half time? No. Like, we know how the trend of Chelsea games have gone. I also look at just structurally how this game may play out and the sort of attributes that Unai Emery's Villa have against this Chelsea team. I think athletically they're pretty well set up. They've got intensity in attack. They can be an intense pressing team. Defensively, they can be quite rigid. They've got a bit of physicality about them, and of course, good quality. So I could see them doing what a lot of teams do against Chelsea. Any smart team against Chelsea currently sits back and allows Chelsea to have the ball, allows Chelsea to play 500 passes, and then looks for the gaps, especially out wide, that have been so prevalent with the way we invert our fullbacks and the individual errors that we make on a consistent basis. So it's a hostile game, and I think, as referenced him already, Matt Law pointed out, he thinks this is quite a big game for Champions League qualification, and I don't disagree with him when you look at the run of games we have between now and the end of the season, given we're likely going up against Villa to get that 4th or 5th place. So, yeah, how can someone be optimistic? I think that's more of the serious question. How can you be optimistic about this game? Because I don't think there's any evidence. You're kind of just hoping that something clicks suddenly for Chelsea.
And it's the hope that kills you, isn't it? I think the one thing which I've been optimistic about was I was reading earlier today that he has been training Enzo Maresca with, get this done, overlapping fullbacks. So if that's the case, I'm a bit more confident because you may see the best out of some of the players that we got. I mean, as you said, Cucurella's basically been playing left wing this season. Malo Gusto is somebody who is so much better overlapping, and then we might actually see the best out of that back line. I mean, for me, right, I'm just saying when we do the Echo 11, it should be five at the back. That's just me, though. You know what I'm saying? Like
Oh
that's
no,
where
I
I see it.
agree. I'm good with. I think it's time to bring the back three um back into full force. Particularly because when I look at sort of the wider areas of who could play there, and if that is the strategy, we know how the system can work. I always think of not that back threes are by their nature always regressive and kind of reactive, but historically back threes usually come in when defensively you're having a bit of a mare and you just need
Mm-hmm.
to go back to basics. The greatest example of this of all at Chelsea is I know most people will say Conte, but I actually think it's more Tuchel, right? I think, Tuchel came in and you got to factor in the team he just taken over from Lampard were conceding a lot of goals and there was a lot of space that was being exploited, particularly in central midfield. And I sort of think that there are maybe ways you can look to fill those gaps in central midfield, especially with a player like Enzo Fernandez. I sort of look at him like a bit of a Jorginho problem. Can Reece James fill that role at times? Can you get one of the three centre backs to step out into central midfield? And then it allows maybe Enzo a little bit more time on the ball. These are the things that Maresca needs to be considering, because if he just keeps on doing the same thing and keeps failing, Chelsea are going to fail in their quest for Champions League football.
Yeah,
He will probably lose his job at the end of the season, and the club will be
I
in a
don't think he
really.
will.
I
I
I
don't think
I
he will
could.
respect it.
I think. Well, yeah. My belief is that I think he should lose his job if he doesn't get Champions League football.
Yeah, I get
Um,
that.
but yeah, we'll see what happens because Jonathan Goldstein apparently thinks
Yeah.
he's doing an amazing job. So we're all very, very wrong. So I guess there is a cry for him to adapt, and maybe just maybe he is about to adapt. But until I see it, I am a little bit skeptical.
No, I get that. I get that. I mean, I was looking. What was it? Is the one thing which we talk about skepticism? Obviously, the whole situation with uh, Enzo Maresca and Chelsea. The one thing I can't not roll my eyes at was a quote that came out earlier today in regards to
Top four.
Ben
Is this
Jacobs
top four
and
quote?
Enzo Maresca talking about top four. Yeah, it's like, yeah, we spent all the season in the top four. Now with 13 games to go, for sure the target for us is top four. But I thought it wasn't the target. This is what I mean about the flip flopping. Where this is the one thing that worries me. We need to make. I've just spoken about the fans having a clear message and how important that is. It is just as important for Chelsea because this constant shifting of the goalposts is just a great example of why fans are annoyed. I'm reading that, and I didn't read that this morning going, oh, good, no, that is the target, then great. I read that, rolled my eyes, went, great. So when it's all going tits up, or when it's going to be going well, we're going to say we're not going to be going for top four. There's an element of it where it just needs to have that consistent message, and that just isn't there. I think we're very fortunate, by the way, that Villa didn't get that goal against Liverpool because they nearly won that game on Wednesday night. And if I'm honest, I was playing football. I caught the second half, and I watched the second half at the pub with the boys. Liverpool obviously very unlucky as well, but Villa had some clear-cut opportunities to go and win the game. If they'd won that game, and then we were going to go up against them at Villa Park this weekend, we're potentially going to be leapfrogged by them. So that draw was great for us because if they win, they're only going to be behind us. But they're going to be breathing down our necks. A result is needed, and I think it's a very, very important thing for Chelsea to, like you said, go back to basics, go to a back three, and we'll just go straight into the Echo 11, by the way, because I think it's important to go into this discussion. As we said, the Echo 11, Dan at the beginning of the season didn't quite get the rules because he was like, no, we need to do what we think we think's going to happen, not what we want to happen. This is all about what we want, and we want three at the back.
Yeah, no, I gave that up quite recently. That now it's just I don't care anymore. Let's just do what we'd like to see happen because there's just so much stupidity going around Chelsea that you have to just you have to have. If you don't have hope, what do you have anymore? We still got
probably.
Wagamama. We were talking about our Wagamama menu selections before we went.
Yeah. See, I didn't
Live.
even know they did a duck one. When you talk about the duck one, I was like, oh,
Oh
that's
man,
quite nice.
that was amazing.
I'm
Also, the other thing, can I just quickly say, because I have to add it in the podcast, talk about Barclays men, right? Let's just talk about that Premier League ball. The new one for the West. Oh man.
Oh my god! I'm going to buy one. In fact, I'm going to buy two.
I've not wanted to
with
buy
one
a
on
football.
display.
I saw someone tweet like, "Never as an adult have I wanted to buy a football more." And I was like, "Yeah," because when I was a kid, I wanted to buy that football, like the proper one, not the crap plastic one. I wanted to buy like the proper replica one. And
Yeah.
I love that. Like the hope for Chelsea is that ball is carrying in it. It's like a Indiana Jones MacGuffin. Like in it carries the spirit of 0405, and it bursts out, and suddenly Chelsea have a decent midfield, and Enzo Fernandez with the spirit of number 8 starts banging them in from several yards out, and then we've got Jackson's injured unfortunately, so we can't do the 15 Drogba regen unfortunately. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I love the Premier League ball. That's what it's come to now, Louis. Like, which I like the ball. The ball moves.
You can't go wrong with that Premier League ball, and it's a shame because it's Nike's last one before they. I think the Premier League are moved across to Puma, so it's going to be really interesting what that looks like. But I mean, look, I fell in love with that ball when I saw it, and obviously, so I've recently just bought a football education franchise, and part of that is going to be I have to buy a load of footballs, and I definitely didn't just go and see if I could get a load of those footballs. It was something which I'm like, yeah, like that's what you want. That's really what you want. And I fell in love with it. It was fantastic.
So back to business. Rob Sanchez in goal.
Right. No, right. Can we talk again? We got to talk about Robert Sanchez. Speaking of balls, how shiny is his head now? Have you seen it?
Do you know what I thought? I thought it was like, do you know in GTA when you go to the hairdressers and suddenly you just decide on this save, because I've done so many saves of GTA 5 especially, where like I'm gonna make Michael bald, I'm gonna make Trevor bald, and that's what it looked like to me. You know, like when you go into the hairdresser and you just you go to the barber and you shave it all off, you do the full beard, and I'm like, for this save, I'm gonna make him look more like Max Payne.
Yeah. Oh, what game that was, by the way, as well, Max Payne. But yeah, no, the whole. I think that the way that he looked there, right? I'm just going to be very honest with you, with Rob. Okay, your barber's shit, mate, because the enhancements he put on the top of your head did not hide the fact that you were bald. It was so bad, and whoever was doing those enhancements, you needed to sack them off and come see a really good barber, right? I know a few, but with all that being said, the fact he's basically just given up, maybe this is like the new Rob Sanchez. Maybe this will be the Rob Sanchez that everyone really liked at Brighton before De Zerbi turned up. Do you remember? Because Rob Sanchez, they're talking about trying to change his nationality so he could play for England. It's like maybe there's something in that. You know, maybe we might see a new regen of him, but I really don't think that's going to be the case. But yeah, goalkeeper, it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other, isn't it? Really? Do you want to do rock paper? Should we just do rock paper scissors, or should we flip a coin?
No, let's go Philip Jorgensen.
Philip Jorgensen, you sure you don't want to flip a coin? So I've got 100 yen right here. I can just flip the yen.
Okay, let's flip the yen.
Are we doing best of 3? Or
I dare you to title this podcast. Let's flip the yen.
Let's flip the yen. Okay, right. Heads or right. The 100 side, it's Robert Sanchez. The flower side, it's Philip Jorgensen. Okay, right, here we go. That was not a flip. That was awful. Ah! I dropped it. Where's it gone?
Great we're filming these now. It's great we're recording this because you've just seen that failure if you're watching on YouTube.
Right. Okay. So let's go. Here we go. Right. It is going to be Philip Jorgensen in goal.
There we go.
There you go. That was easy. So we've got Philip Jorgensen in goal for Chelsea because we flipped the yen. I think the yen should always just be our go-to. Like if we're unsure, we'll just flip the yen.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go for that. So left back, we'll do a back 3. So we do the wing backs, or do you want to do the 3 and then the wing backs?
Let's do the 3. Let's do the 3 in the 3 in defence. Let's do that first.
Well, Trev, Levi, Tosin. I guess it's unless there's anyone else.
I was actually going to go Trev, Levi, Trev on the right, Levi in the centre, and Cucurella left centre back.
Okay, but who are you going to? Okay, right. Let's play that out. Because who are you putting left wing back?
Tyreek George.
Really? As a wing back?
I was thinking Malo Gusto, but then it would go. See, Cucurella is a left. See, Cucurella for me is just an inverted fullback, right? I think he just does better as an inverted fullback. Unfortunately, isn't it great that Chelsea do this? Right, we loan out the one wing back we could use that would be perfect in this situation because we don't have any use for him anymore. And then Maresca's about to start playing proper wing backs after being told in the summer we didn't need those type of players anymore. I want to see Tyreek George start. The only other player I would have as a wing back in this current team is Pedro Neto. But Neto's been awful.
I've got him starting as the number 9.
Okay, well, listen, we can't. No, but I mean, I can't really. The problem is there's no real counter argument anymore. Like Tosin is number 9, I'd be like, yeah, okay, fine, mate.
Do we flip the end?
yeah, we're gonna flip the end again.
Right, so we both got Trev and Levi. So it's now figuring out if Cucurella is left centre back or Tosin's in the side. Right, here we go. Flipping the yen. Moment of truth. We didn't actually figure out who was heads and who was tails, did we?
No.
Okay, that's probably a good start. We should probably do that. So, 100 Cucurella, Flowers, Tosin. Right, here we go. Let's go. And flip. I wouldn't make a great goalkeeper, would I?
That's very Chelsea goalkeeper.
It's Tosin. There you go. So Tosin's
okay. Then Cucurella left wing back. Then
yeah, that works for me. And then you've got right wing back Malo Gusto. I think I wouldn't risk playing Reece there because I like his hamstrings. And then double pivot. I guess are you doing 3-4-3 or doing 3-2 or 3-5-2?
I'm doing 11.
You're right.
God. Yeah.
Are you okay? It's been a long day.
It's just been Chelsea. Right, okay. It's been a long 3 years.
Yeah, no, it has. Right. Okay. So we'll go 3-4-3.
So Flowers is for let's flip the end for central midfield. So Flowers are Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, and 100 are Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez.
Right, let's flip the end. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Leon flip. Up. Just get out. It's land on the Flowers, so it's Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez.
That's really easy. I thought it was going to be. I have to say, I thought on this occasion it might be Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez.
Can I just say it's landed on the Flowers every time? I'm just going to prove a point, right? That there is sort of, if you're watching this, right, you do have Flowers on one side and you do have the 100 on the other. So we're not cheating. It's just that side seems to hold the
loads of flowers to go out today.
Yeah, it's got to give some flowers. Do you know what I mean? So we got that. So Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, front 3. I've gone Tyreek George, Neto, and Noni. No, not Noni. I can't go Noni. Fuck. I don't know who the right
Palmer.
Yeah, there you go. Cole Palmer. That would make sense. Well done. Nice one, Louis. You Chelsea fucking podcast. Cretin.
Chelsea podcast. This is the Chelsea podcast. Just we've gone so far. We've been so clear lakes that we no longer put Cole Palmer in the starting 11.
I mean, I do have a very interesting quote for you on Cole Palmer. This was put in the group chat. This was someone who reached out to me after I basically done the final score show, right? Let me just quickly find it for you. Where's it gone? I'm trying to find the group chat name. Okay, so it's actually from my friend Dave, right? We love Dave. But Dave has said this.
Is it just me? But like all Daves are solid. Like
Yeah, I mean, this
Dave is a
Dave.
solid. Like I feel like every Dave I've ever met in my life is a solid guy, just a solid good guy.
Yeah, this Dave is actually a very good guy. He talks a
Mm,
lot, and that's coming from me. But Dave's a good guy. Dave at
mm,
the pub is just a really good sort of bloke to be around. No, he sits there. He's a PT, or he was a PT. So he's like this bloke who's built like a brick shithouse, but can outdrink everyone around the table, but then
mm.
still go for a run. Man's a machine. I love him to bits. But he said this, right? So obviously, when Cole Palmer was moaning after the Brighton game, rightfully so, and I said he didn't really deserve what's going on. He's turned around to me and he said, in regards to Cole Palmer, and not deserving this, Louis, he's been just as shit, if not worse, than the rest of the squad has been a bit tough. As things have been a bit tough. Let's read that again. In regards to Cole Palmer not deserving this, Louis, he's been just as shit, if not worse, than the rest of the squad as things have got a bit tough. A great player who needs to actually step up when it's against us and not try and arrogantly nutmeg players. I didn't respond because I actually thought I'd purposely save it for the pod. But there has been a few Chelsea fans that have said that Cole Palmer has dropped off just a little bit. Are they being too harsh because he's still, by and large, our best player by a country mile?
I believe the numbers are still kind of suggesting he's our best player, most impactful player. I understand what he means that, like, sure, it's been tough and maybe you could argue he isn't stepping up as much, but he was kind of doing that last season. So I don't think you can argue that Palmer has never proven to be a player that steps up when things are tough for Chelsea. We're talking about a player who has done ridiculous things at his age at Chelsea. I mean, it's just he has so much leeway with Chelsea fans, and I think rightly so. And I think more it's a reflection on the failures around him than his failings. And I'm not saying we should hold Palmer to no level of performance and no level of standards, right? But I don't look at him and think, oh yeah, he's really the one that's been dropping off. He's really the one that's been lacking. I look at him and see a guy that's probably frustrated with the mediocrity that surrounds him a lot of the time. So people may not like the way he expresses that frustration, but you can't tell me any Chelsea fan currently is putting out a starting 11 without Cole Palmer, because at the moment he's kind of like the only one you kind of back to score a goal, especially without even Jackson in the team, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's just the most pivotal asset. And I think as a potent front three, thinking Kunku, Palmer, and Pedro Neto, in the words of the great David Brent, synergize. I think we can see something there. I really do. And I think that'll be the Chelsea Echo front three. So we've gone for a 3-4-3. We've gone pure Beneventi ball. None of this Maresca Diet Pep nonsense. All right.
Yeah, but
We're
I think
talking
Maresca,
wing
as an
backs.
Italian, he needs to embrace his Italian heritage. He really needs to
Yeah,
embrace
he
back
does.
three, Catenaccio, libero. Just go full. Embrace the Conte. Start running down the touchline.
Absolutely. This is what if everyone misses those sort of vibes, they just need to come and watch Imperial War on the 5th of March. Because it'll be our first game back as a friendly, and Catenaccio, Beneventi ball will be on full display. It's a nice amalgamation of exactly all the things we've spoken about, along with the directness of a Neil Warnock and the physicality of a Sean Dyche. This is a real hard-working team, and it's a team which is going to go to places, and we will be champions. This is what we will do. So if you want to see that, come down and watch. Get behind a team that cares about you. And then just if everyone's there, I can then do the Jurgen Klopp as well. So if there's a crowd, I can do the whole, little fist bump thing. I'll do it to one person. If one person turns up, that's a win for me, if I'm honest. But at the end of the day, lads, that's that. That is the Echo 11. That has been the Chelsea Echo, obviously talking about everything to do with the protest. If you are down there, please do feel free to kind of have a chat with us. I'd really like to understand more about where it's coming from and what the policies are and what you guys are looking to push through. And then, of course, aside from that as well, I'd be very keen, obviously, just to understand everything, and hopefully Chelsea can get 3 points against Southampton. But at first, we have to play Aston Villa. So if you have enjoyed this, please do make sure you drop a like if you're watching it. Yeah, that's right. Drop a like. Old school, mate. That's what we love.
And always remember, guys, wherever you are, wherever you are listening or watching this, flip the yen. Flip the yen this
Flip
weekend.
the yen. Flip the yen this weekend. Is that gonna be like our new Peter Crouch thing? You know, they got like past the pod. Are we gonna do like, listen, lads, if you just don't know what to do, just flip the yen. You know what I mean? Get some yen, especially if you're one of our Japanese listeners, because there's about 5 of those. So konnichiwa, how you doing? So that has been the Chelsea.
We're now divulging
been...
into cultural appropriation. Jesus Christ!
It's not. I've just said hello in Japanese.
Okay,
is that konnichiwa?
Okay.
Or is that damarigato? I don't know. I don't speak Japanese.
Oh,
I'll speak to Terry Komatsu. Me and you need to have a conversation. Anyway, this has been the Chelsea Echo. This has been your preview of Aston Villa. If you have enjoyed it, drop a like. If you're watching, if you're listening, please give us a 5-star review. It really does help the pod out a lot. I've been Louis Beneventi.
I've been Daniel Childs.
And this has been the Chelsea Echo. We will see you later. Ta-da.